Hi, I'm Susan Kennard, and welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview really cool people, really interesting people that have had a turning point in their life or a spiritual awakening that has led them to be so much more than they thought they ever were, just like you. So if you want to hear my spiritual awakening story, pop over to episode 1 after this one and let me know what you thought, because I had a visitation in the night which changed my life. So I'm really excited to be here today with my next guest. Her name is Barbara Ann Rose, and she's here to tell you all about her turning point and her spiritual awakening. Welcome, Barbara, to the Spiritual Awakener podcast.
Welcome, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to have you. Great to hear. I can't wait to hear your story.
Thanks.
So tell us, what do you feel was the key thing or the turning point or spiritual awakening that happened in your life to lead you to be who you are today?
Well, I'm going to say two things, or 2 points, I guess you would say. One of them is when I was 2 years old, so a long time. I'm 55 now, so at 2 years of age, I had a cosmic, I don't know what kind of being it was, but it was a being, and it felt, I always describe it as he/they.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but it's something that I chose to never forget. And that they were informing me that there was going to be some bad things that were going to start to happen soon. And that was my father being sexually abusing me.
Wow.
And between 3 and 5. So when this happened at 2 years of age, it was just like helping me prep of what was going to happen, and I was going to be taken care of. I was going to be okay. Eventually, that I was going to write a book and help humanity on a wide scale about spiritual and emotional healing. So I would say that would be the first turning point, the first part of my life.
So do you feel that it was the collective, it was a collective consciousness, do you feel?
I mean, I was aware of myself. So I was aware that this was just me at 2 years of age, and I'm sitting on the kitchen floor and I'm just doing my little kid thing, you know?
Right.
And then here this being I sense on the side of me speaking to me. He just kind of like shows up, and I'm aware of this other being next beside me and talking to me, you know, telepathically, and giving me some information about a little bit about what's to come and what my purpose is, what I'm supposed to do later on in life. I guess the second part of, I don't think I would call it awakening, but I think I would call it more of a way to expand my expand knowledge, expand consciousness, expanding my awareness of things beyond the physical. And that actually was happening, what happened continually during me as a massage therapist. When I became a licensed massage therapist when I went to school in 2008, certified in 2008, and then licensed in 2009. So when I started massaging,
we're talking today in May, actually it's May 21st in 2020.
Yes.
So people are listening to this later on, and they can get a sense of where we are in the timeline, in a linear human timeline.
Right. But it was just going beyond my wildest imagination of this gift that I have with my hands. And it's weird because when I talk, I go back and forth in time. You know, I go in the past and I go in the future, then I go in the past and then I go present, then I go in the future. It was just like, sometimes I don't know if I'm confusing people or not, but it just helps to put the pieces of the puzzle together. When I started at the beginning of 2, and then I'm talking about massaging in 2008.
It's quite incredible, isn't it, that at age 2, you know, because I believe we come in to forget, to remember. And quite often, you know, because we know, don't we, why we've come in and on our soul's journey and our experience, but we forget when we're born, really, don't we? And essentially forget, and we're in this human experience, but we don't ever forget. But then it's unusual to be so young to have a memory like that, because many people, including myself, I don't have memories at that age. So to have a memory like that is amazing, you know, to actually know that you had that. I interviewed another lady, a friend of mine called Lorraine, and she had a visitation a little bit older than that, but she also remembered, and it's incredible. It was obviously really important, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you grew up, let me just take you back a little bit. So you were 2 years old, and then as you grew up, so at 3, you said that you were abused by your father.
Yes.
Yeah. Sexually abused by your father.
Between 3 to 5.
Wow.
And that information didn't come to me. There's a whole story in that. And the whole story and everything that we're talking about right now and further is actually in my book,
Yeah.
Angel Works. So soaring from abuse to love, forgiveness, and enlightenment. So Angel Works.
Yes, it's Angel Works. And that's on your website, is it, Barbara?
It is. There is a link on my website.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can buy it on Amazon.
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah. So I mean, that's really cool in itself, because imagine you have this story, you have this awakening, you have these experiences, and you're there to help other people. And if you don't write your book, or if you don't align to your mission, then that's just within you. And nobody else can experience the healing from it. And that's where we're going with this, isn't it? So yeah, so carry on. Tell us about what you want to tell us about, which is about.
So when I was going into the massage, and then I was going backward in time, because when I was separated and divorced from my husband, which is a whole other story, which is also in the book about the domestic violence and narcissist and him controlling me and all that kind of stuff. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 3 kids, was a stay-at-home mom, and then all the trauma happened within the marriage and after the marriage because of the type of person that he is. Well, I got a job in the physical therapy field. So I was a technician and I was helping people. And during the time, that was between 2001 and 2005, that I worked there. And there was a moment that I was looking at my hands. No one was around. I was at work, but no one was around. So I'm looking at my hands, literally looking at my hands and asking myself, like, what am I supposed to do with you? Yeah. There's something here in my hands that's special. Yeah. Guide me to let me know what I'm supposed to do with these hands. So fast forward to 2008, then I got licensed as a massage therapist. And then during the massaging, there's no words to express it, because my hands would just do their thing.
Do you mean that they go the places they need to go and people would experience the healing through it?
Yeah, because I tap into the person's soul when I'm touching them. And music takes me there. So the music is like the key that opens the door into the consciousness, I guess you could say, of this other realm of where the real reality is. Because there's 2 realities. We have the physical reality of stuff that goes on in the physical world, and then the spiritual reality. So the music gets me into that space. It just kind of takes me there, and I become one with it. At the same time, I'm becoming one with the body that I'm working on. And the hands just do their own magical kind of thing. Because I have the clairvoyance, which I've had for the longest time that I could remember. And then sometimes the clairaudience, the clairaudience, like, I think I went to see a psychic a few years ago in 2016 and did their little test, to see how many of the spiritual gifts you have. And I was high on all of them. And I thought maybe I wasn't very high on hearing part, because I want to expand the hearing, but it says that I'm pretty high on all of them. Anyway, that was fascinating.
I found as well, Barbara, that because obviously I've worked in therapy for, goodness knows, the whole of my career, nearly 30 years, and I'm a medium as well. With clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience, and channel my guides and light language, etc. But what I was going to say was, what I found across my journey of all of those years working with trauma and being a specialist in working with trauma, is that I've found that when people have had childhood trauma, they seem to be very much more aware, and their auric field seems to be much broader and expansive, and it's because they had to be on alert. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does make sense.
And so if you know, when people are experiencing abuse, whatever it might be, physical abuse, sexual abuse, they're sort of on high alert, and you know, the kind of sympathetic nervous system's on high alert. So essentially you're always looking for the next thing to attack you or get you. So what I have found is that as you heal those parts of you, and those, you know, those high alert parts of you, I can call it, then that sense gets much more homed in, and that's probably happened to you, that you're able to channel it to a place where it really helps other people. So what I found with people that are, I think some people call them empaths, they're often people that are just so open and with all of those gifts. So that's probably what happens to most people. And then as you heal those parts of you, you can channel it in this incredible way to help heal others. So yeah.
Yeah, and my main way of doing that is through touching the physical body through the massage work. However, I am able to connect with people through the voice, like on the phone or through videoing if I start helping them in that way.
So you're tapped right.
I just start tuning in to what they're saying, the words that they use, the tone of voice. I even have been able to tap into the individuals of who they're talking about. Like if it's a man and they're talking about their wife, and they start talking about like experiences with the wife. So I'm not just tapping into him, I'm tapping into her energy as well. Yeah. And then when I speak, whenever that comes out of my mouth about the wife, and relay it to him. And there's been many times where these guys would be saying, oh my God, you helped me more in 20 minutes than my therapist that I've been seeing for 2 years.
And this is a really important point. And I think, and especially now at this time, is that, you know, in the old days, I was a psychotherapist and a psychologist, and I quit my previous life. And I think that it's gone, it's gone are the days of trawling out all the old trauma. And now it's this energetic, vibrational healing that needs to take place, isn't it? With the acknowledgement and just releasing it and saying, you know what, that's a story. Yeah. And it doesn't need to define you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you work now? Because obviously we're recording this at the time of a great spiritual awakening. It's quite interesting. My podcast is called The Spiritual Awakener, but essentially we're going through this incredible awakening. So if you're listening to this a year later, or, you know, on your podcast platform, then you will remember what was going on in 2020. This amazing awakening where people had to go within, not only emotionally, but physically as well. So how are you? You said that the way that you work is through massage touch, but obviously we're in social distancing mode, aren't we, at the moment?
Right.
So how does that work for you?
Definitely harder.
Yeah. So how does that work for you?
Because I need the touch as well when I'm touching, when I'm giving. It's very therapeutic for me on all sorts of, on many levels. So when that is taken away, it's hard on me, on my mental state. But
why did you write?
Occasionally there are a few clients that I'm able to talk to, like over the phone, and give some guidance, because massage is the main part of the business. So I'm always looking to do more as it comes to the coaching with clients and couples.
Wow. And so
I like to focus, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My main thing, I feel, is dealing with helping couples, because I want to help couples thrive and survive, married couples, you know. people that are already have this commitment with each other.
Yeah.
And then when they're in some trouble, I want them to be able to come to me for me to help them. Because it kind of kills me on the inside when I see relationships just falling apart, and a lot of people don't, well, for one, they're not taking responsibility for their own self that they've put into the marriage, whether they like it or not. And I'm the type of person, you know, I will force you to look at yourself and not put the blame on life, or not put the blame on, or vice versa, on the other person, you know. And sometimes it's hard for people to, it's really hard for people to look in the mirror and say, I'm the one that was screwed up and this is what I did. Or me help them find out what it is about them that they did that, you know, that created that.
Because it's the vibrational attraction, isn't it? You know, so, you know, we are that unified field, aren't we? And so we attract, you are me, I am you. And so, you know, we attract these experiences in our outside world, which is a reflection of our inside. So I found that with relationships, with when I work with people, is that they say, this person did this to me. And I'm sure you hear this all the time if you're working with couples. And it's saying, well, actually, you attracted that experience so you could heal, but it's taking responsibility, isn't it, for what you've attracted, and saying, you know, I definitely had to do that. I was in a really difficult relationship, which we might call narcissistic, you know, if we were to label it. And that was 12 years ago now, 11, 12 years ago. And I would say one of the key things for me was stepping out of that, obviously coming out of the closet and saying, I'm a spiritual scientist. But apart from that, it was looking at what I had accepted in a relationship and what I had attracted from my own self-worth, my own valuing of myself or not. Yeah, so that's key, isn't it? It's key to really look at what experiences are in your life now. And if you don't like them, you need to change something within, don't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So your journey of writing this book, now I've just finished channeling my book and it's ready to go to a publisher. So I know the journey of writing a book, right? And so what would you say made you kind of, that light bulb came on and you just said, right, I've got to channel this book. I've got to write this book.
2011 just seemed to be the year.
Yeah.
I just felt it energetically. Like now, it was just, now is the time.
Yeah. Wow. And did you sit down and apply yourself, or what did you do? How did you do it?
It took about a year to write it, and since it's about my life, it was pretty easy to write. You know, it was easy to write about my own life. Yeah. Some of the things are a little bit more, and I knew there were certain key points that I knew I wanted to be in the book. Yeah. And I wrote a lot. Obviously, you always write a lot more than what actually goes in the book itself, because I knew I wanted the abuse about my dad specifically to be in it. Yeah. I knew I wanted some key points within the marriage that needed to be in there. I wanted to write about that, you know, the importance of that I was a stay-at-home mom, and then talk about my own spiritual gifts and how those spiritual gifts, or my and visions too of the future, that those difficult times in the marriage, the spiritual gifts is what my spiritual self is what helped pull me through, take me through. That's kind of like what saved myself from the whole mess. Talk about reincarnation in the book. There's meditations in the book. So there's tools, there's things in the book that people can actually use to help themselves. It's not just them reading a story about me and what I did and how I survived.
It's a healing journey, right? This is what my guides are saying as I'm talking to you. It's like they're saying to me, it's like a healing journey.
Healing, freedom. Healing towards freedom of self.
Yeah. And I think so many people need that, you know, they need to understand that, you know, people do have stuff that has led them to be who they are. And that's one of the reasons why I created this podcast, is that, you know, I'm a a girl from a tiny village, right? In an idyllic setting, one would think, but our lives are never idyllic. Yeah. And so, you know, you probably would come across as somebody who has all these incredible gifts, but until people know about where they really got ignited from, you know, they might not know that about you.
Right.
So by writing it in your story, in your book, you know, they wouldn't know it to look at you, and they wouldn't know it for you to work with them. They wouldn't know it, but
Right.
they know that you are a real person that went through real experiences. And I want everyone, if you're listening to this now, you are also a real person and you've had real experiences. And it might be time for you to look at what's going on in your life now. And if you're listening to this conversation, this interview, then it's because you've been drawn to it and you've been guided to this particular conversation. And it might be time for you to look up within, what have you attracted into your life, and maybe take that part of you and say, oh my goodness, I've been blaming myself, my partner, my whatever, my job. That's different at the moment, but blaming situations outside of myself. And we've just got to remember that we're all part of the unified field of consciousness, one. But key things to remember are, you can change anything, right? I believe that. Do you, Barbara? You can change anything.
I guess, yeah, it's possible. I think,
Yeah.
yes, it's always going to be possible for us to change everything that we want. Once we come to that decision point of, this is it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Right. And so what types of people come to you? Because let's talk about what you offer. So you have a service where at the moment you're obviously talking to people on the phone and perhaps like this on Zoom. Yeah.
Actually, I haven't really used Zoom much.
No.
Just my own phone.
Just your phone, yeah. So people can get hold of you and call you. And so what sort of things, I'm just thinking for the audience here, what sort of things would they come to you about?
Actually, there are quite a few people that they want to talk and come to discuss to me about their sexuality.
Wow.
Sexual issues, or right, for possible reasons for ED, or, you know, things like that.
What's ED?
That's a common thing. Erectile dysfunction.
Okay. Erectile dysfunction. Okay. And they'll come to you and they'll say, you know, this is what I can't really talk to anyone else.
Right.
What I want to talk to you about. Oh, it's so lovely that you offer that. And
right. And men, I don't know, men just seem like they just feel drawn towards me and safe with me to talk to them about this kind of stuff, rather than them going to another man.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about women? Do you work with women as well? You know, women.
Sometimes it's more the male population that I help more than the female population.
Yeah, and that's great, because we so need, you know, definitely in my profession, I work with more women, and that's not because I choose to, it's just the way it works in my courses and groups and so on. But it's really great that you offer that for men, because they obviously feel very safe with you to work with you. And so have you got maybe not that subject, but have you got somebody that you could talk about that would be happy for you to share what sort of experiences, what happens after a session with you?
Right, like with spiritual experiences.
Yeah, maybe. Something you feel will help people to understand.
And sometimes I've had what has happened in the massage sessions when they receive the divine touch, because there can be a lot of energy, and that can very independent on the person itself.
Yeah.
On how much they can feel. And not just, you know what I mean by feel, on the inside, the energies that moving inside of the body and around the body, and the memories that may pop up as I'm doing the touch. And so there have been, I don't know how many times, because people don't tell me everything that happens after the session or what they feel like, but there have been times where people would discuss with me, they would come talk to me over the phone, or maybe their next session, they may say, after I had my session with you the first time, or the last time I had my session with you, I started feeling more awake. I started feeling, I could feel my own sensuality that I couldn't feel since I was a teenage boy. That's an example. So they would start to feel their own human body more, the senses more. But there will also be times where they would be experiencing spiritual experiences, and they would attempt to tell their friends, their buddies or whatever, and their buddies are looking at them like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But they know that they can, then they'll come to me and they'll tell me this. He says, but I feel safe with you, Barbara, because I know you'll get it. I said, of course I will. You can tell me anything when it comes to like spiritual experiences or these weird things that are happening to you that have never happened to you. You know, that means you're starting to wake up.
I know. That's beautiful. Yeah. And, you know, and more people are waking up, aren't they? More and more people are awakening to the light. You know, they really are awakening to the light and realizing that we are so much more than this mind and body, that we have this incredible being of light within us, you know. And I think and then I think what's key is that infinite possibility. You know, when people realize, I find this, when people realize that they are so much more than this physical body, that actually I work with dis-ease a lot, so physical body showing disease, and when people start to come into their body, which I'm sure you notice as well, when they're actually grounded in this human form, then they start to heal themselves, you know, like their body starts to heal and they start to realize that there's so much more for them than this message that's being held. So I'm sure with, you know, men that are coming to you with sexual problems or not feeling a man themselves, once they come into their physical body, this is just kind of what I'm being guided to say here, perhaps when they come into their physical body, they're actually able to come into that sensuality and that feeling again, you know? And do you work with, you know, people that are finding it hard to their sexuality in the sense of gay men and lesbian women or what?
I haven't really dealt with.
No, that hasn't come into your experience. No, so just So couples can come to you. A lot of men come to you, it sounds like. But so
I welcome women and couple. I love working with women, and I love working with couples as well. Yeah. So when they do come through, it's like I get so excited.
It's a joy, it's a joy. Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, Barbara, our work, I mean, it's not like work really, is it? To be honest, you know, I just have fun. I show up every day and have fun and work with people and help them align to their mission of who they are. And to me, that is what life is all about. And you know, when you feel you get up in the morning, you do a job, you're probably not in the right job, you know. You're probably not on your mission, I would say, wouldn't you?
I mean, I really enjoy what I do. Yeah. I really do. And I just, every once in a while, I think about going and working part-time somewhere else. And every single time that I've attempted to do that, I don't know, maybe 10 times over the past, since 2008 or so, I can't do it. Nope, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
There's no way.
I can't be employed by someone else. I'm too independent. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing about that, I think, is as well, is you're in your own energy. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about going self-employed or you know, setting up yourself, whatever you're doing, you're in your own energy. So you are responsible then for the clients you're attracting, the experience you're attracting into your life. Whereas if you're working for a company or for someone else, then you have to deal with all of those emotions as well, everybody else's stuff, everybody else's journey. You can't create, so you can't manifest in the same way. And to me, you know, owning your true sense of your power of who you are in this world has to really come when you are in your own alignment with your own mission, doesn't it? That's the key, I think. Right. And that doesn't mean you go out and quit your job or anything. I'm not suggesting anyone does that, by the way.
Right.
Just don't do that. Just don't do that.
I'm brave enough to do that. But.
No, but just come into that place and just remember that you have all the answers within you. And if you want to reach out to Barbara, where can they get hold of you? Give us your website.
I have a couple of websites, spiritualandemotionalhealing.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly the massage stuff is on there, but there are a few links to other things. And then the second website is the space between the thorns.com.
Space between the thorns.com.
Got it.
I got it.
It's like that has a lot of information on there.
Wow.
And each site has a link to the other site, and each site has a link for the book as well.
Brilliant.
We also have the YouTube channel, Barbara Andrews, all sorts of other interviews and podcasts, and videos that they can.
So there's loads of ways they can connect with you, and they don't have to work with you if they don't want to, but they can find out about you.
Right.
YouTube channels are brilliant for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I have considered about putting out there with you, and I'm like, should I just do it or not? Should I just say it or not say it? Yeah. And I've been thinking about, with the whole COVID thing, and a lot of people who have lost their jobs, who are unemployed for whatever, my heart kept thinking, should I just put it out there and say, I'm here for you. I'll coach you for my fee for coaching is $150 an hour. Yeah. So for the people who can afford that, that's great. If you want to help, if you want me to help you, that's my quote unquote fee. Yeah. But for other people who can't afford that, I still want to be able to be available for them. Mm-hmm. So basically it's whatever they can donate to me.
Brilliant. So it's a donation basis. That's the same as I'm running actually even tonight, and probably when you listen to this later on, I'll still be running it. So twice a month I run a donation basis activation healing event for the new moon or the full moon, depending, and looking at where that is in your chart. So where does that affect you in your chart? And it's donation basis from £1, which is, I don't know, kind of like $1. And so essentially I'm the same. I want to do that as well for people, so that people can definitely receive healing and they can definitely receive a connection. Right. So I need to close this conversation now, but it's been fantastic to meet you and have you on the Spiritual Awakener, Barbara. If you feel drawn to connect with Barbara, find her on all of those different channels. She's great. She's obviously got a beautiful team that works with her. It's been a brilliant conversation. And if you have a conversation that you would like to share with me on the Spiritual Awakener, I'd love to hear from you. So find me on susankennard.co.uk. And if you want to hear my spiritual awakening story of how I was visited in the night, go to episode 1. So until then, much love to everybody here, and see you on the next episode of the Spiritual Awakener.
Thank you.